Many of us consume too much food, and when you tell people the best way to address this is through fasting, everyone talks about 16-hour fasts or the Mediterranean diet. In Islamic tradition, fasting on Mondays and Thursdays or 3 days a week is recommended, with a minimum of 3 days a month. However, change is difficult unless you've practiced it before. Start with just a few days per month and gradually increase. The minimum requirement exists because when you begin fasting and eating less in general, your desire for food diminishes. What you truly want is to control the desire and temptation, not to starve yourself, but to have mastery over your appetites. It's about reaching a state where you can calmly say you need something without being driven by uncontrolled urges. The practice of fasting isn't merely about physical deprivation, but about training the soul to distinguish between genuine needs and manufactured wants. The concept of having a sound heart, a pure heart, means learning to detach from constant indulgence in food. Beautiful gatherings with food are fine occasionally, but they shouldn't be constant. We need to change. And how can we change if every time we gather, we feed ourselves excessively? Practice fasting regularly. The purpose of this discipline extends beyond weight management or physical health. It reaches into the spiritual realm, teaching us self-control, patience, and awareness of those who struggle with food scarcity. When we voluntarily abstain from what is permissible and available to us, we develop a deeper appreciation for the blessings we often take for granted. This gratitude transforms our relationship not just with food, but with all worldly pleasures. Learn to love your solitary time, your moments of reflection. In this time, you are alone with nothing but yourself and your Creator. These quiet moments become opportunities for genuine self-examination and spiritual growth. In our modern world filled with constant noise, entertainment, and distraction, we have lost the art of being alone with our thoughts. We reach for our phones the moment we experience a second of boredom or discomfort. Yet it is precisely in these uncomfortable silences that we discover who we truly are and what we truly value. The practice of solitude isn't about isolation or loneliness, but about creating sacred space for contemplation and connection with the divine. When you remove the external stimuli and sit with yourself, you begin to hear the whispers of your conscience and the stirrings of your soul. Those who achieve spiritual purity are said to need no more than 4 hours of sleep per day. While most of us need more sleep, excessive sleep can deaden the heart. A person of spiritual discipline should wake before dawn, and if you feel tired or sick, your body needs rest, so take the day to recover as needed. The early morning hours, those moments before the world awakens, hold a special quality. There is a stillness and clarity in the pre-dawn darkness that cannot be found at any other time. This isn't about torturing yourself or ignoring legitimate bodily needs, but about finding balance and not using sleep as an escape from life's responsibilities or spiritual obligations. Many people sleep not because their bodies require it, but because they wish to avoid facing their problems or engaging in meaningful work. When we discipline our sleep patterns, we reclaim precious hours that can be devoted to prayer, study, reflection, or productive work that benefits ourselves and others. The struggle within us involves two forces in the heart pulling in different directions. Usually, the best approach is to strengthen the good side. Just as in any contest, the stronger force wins, so you need to strengthen the positive aspects within yourself. When you do this, the negative side naturally weakens. This concept is fundamental to understanding spiritual development. Many people make the mistake of focusing all their energy on fighting their negative traits, engaging in an exhausting battle against their own shadows. However, a more effective approach is to cultivate positive qualities so vigorously that they naturally crowd out the negative ones. If you fill your time with prayer, learning, charity, and righteous companionship, you leave little room for harmful behaviors and thoughts. If you nourish your soul with spiritual sustenance, you diminish the power of base desires. This principle applies universally, whether you're struggling with anger, greed, pride, or any other spiritual ailment. You've likely seen people who accomplish extraordinary things, and you wonder how they manage it. They are human beings like you and me, but they possess a different spiritual state. This transformation doesn't happen overnight. There's a saying, know God in times of ease, and He will know you in times of hardship. The key is building that relationship gradually, through consistent spiritual practice, mindful eating, regular fasting, and reducing excessive sleep and material attachments. These individuals haven't been granted special abilities or supernatural powers. They have simply committed themselves to a path of spiritual discipline and growth. They wake when others sleep, they fast when others feast, they give when others hoard, and they remember God when others forget. Through years of consistent practice, they have refined their souls and sharpened their spiritual awareness. What appears extraordinary to us is simply the natural result of sustained effort and divine grace. When you strengthen your spiritual core through these practices, you develop resilience and clarity that carries you through all circumstances of life. The person who has trained themselves through voluntary hardship finds mandatory hardship easier to bear. The one who has learned to control their appetites in times of abundance won't be destroyed by deprivation in times of scarcity. The individual who has cultivated a relationship with God during peaceful days will find that relationship to be an anchor during storms. This is the wisdom behind spiritual discipline. It isn't about making life harder for ourselves or earning God's love through suffering. Rather, it's about preparing ourselves for life's inevitable challenges and positioning ourselves to be of service to others. A spiritually weak person can barely manage their own affairs, but a spiritually strong person becomes a source of support and guidance for their entire community. They become like a tree with deep roots that remain standing when winds blow, providing shade and fruit for all who seek shelter beneath its branches. The journey towards spiritual purification requires patience, consistency, and humility. We must begin where we are, with small achievable steps, and gradually build upon them. If you cannot fast 3 days per month, start with 1. If you cannot wake before dawn every day, start with once a week. The important thing is to begin and to maintain consistency, rather than pursuing dramatic but unsustainable changes. Every small victory over the self strengthens the soul and makes the next step easier. With time and sincere effort, practices that once seemed impossibly difficult become natural and even joyful. The heart that was once enslaved to desires becomes free, and in that freedom discovers a peace and contentment that no worldly pleasure could ever provide.